Is she scheduled to present today, I repeat?
I think so.
Okay, so Michelle's not here. Michelle, see me when you get back to get your resubmitted CCOT essay. So I'm going to hand these back to you. There are brief commentaries on them. These are the resubmissions of your CCOT period 2. Wait.
These are the last test, not these most recent tests.
Oh, the original. Not too soon.
This is very first
Cindy. Michelle's not here. Now I am in the, let's see, Cindy, I've got your and your grades in Power School. I've got your CCOT graded. Celine, your CCOT is graded, it's in Power School. Michelle, yours is, it's in Power School. Hannah, yours is, it's in Power School. And Ishan, A, freaking plus, you did really well. All right, I can't wait to show others how well you did, because you did well in some very, very nice ways. Particularly the expanded core points provides links with relevant ideas, events, trends in an innovative way. You had a very innovative frame for these issues. Reese, yours is in Power School. Sakib, yours is in Power School. So, and Sakib, yours was excellent too. You got an A+ as well. Nice. Overall, solid work. I hope to have the rest of them done by next class. And then I've just got DBQ's performance to do. Yay! It's just never ending. It's like medieval. In fact, I think I'd prefer to just hang out with the Inquisition and get tortured. Okay. Let's quickly look at our calendar on School Ugly. That's my new name for School Ugly. School Ugly with a K. School Ugly. So, please note, and Orion, please note, Orion, nicely, you're getting to work on it, right? Yeah. Okay, you're going to hit your marker events on that. Orion did the wrong theme and just discovered this morning, bless his heart. So now he's, so I've got a rotating list, guys, and so what you're going to do is you're going to rotate through, and you're going to keep doing this, and we're going to watch you improve and hit marker events and talk about, here's the continuity and changeover. Hey. Oh, sorry. Not a soccer field. Continuity and change. This period, this theme. So there it is. So some of you are doing your first one, some of you are doing your second one. It's a 4-slide presentation, so that's there. You scroll down to the bottom, 2 things. There's the task sheet, and there is what periods 4 chapter or section linked, right? So that's the entire period 4 right there. What is it? We're doing Americas today before. This is Americas after. Hemispheres united. So what happens when the Spanish and Portuguese and British show up in North America, Central America, South America? That's what next time is, to continue that story. There are 3 sections: Portuguese and Spanish voyages and colonies. So that section, plus please note, the conclusion is very useful for all of you. The conclusion is 2 pages, 296, 297. It just like sums up and really gives you like at the end, here's what changed. So do yourself a favor and use that conclusion summary, all of you, no matter what section you're assigned. That's why it's there and there. And then global exchanges. Notice there's only 2 themes being done here. Sakib and Catherine, you're the only 2 doing it because it's primarily diseases and the Columbian exchange, plants, animals, and all sorts of stuff. So it's humans in the environment and demographics and disease, theme 1. And it's economic because resources are crossing oceans, both animal, human, particularly animal and plant resources. So economics, hugely, hugely impactful. So the other 3 are not, okay? So that being said, all right. Now I went over my 3 keys here, and I found that on version 1 of the test, there were no errors. No, I'm wrong. On version 1 of the test, question 47 was wrong. So question 47, the correct answer should be B. So those of you who have version 1, whip it out real quick. And if you have answer B on version, all of you whip out yours because we're going to do the same thing with 1, 2, and 3. So do you have it out? Okay. All right, Ishan, don't be a drama queen over there. Okay, so on version 1, simply put, if you had B on number 47, mark out the number that is the correct number and put your base number. Because, you know, for example, if you had 31 at the beginning and you got 50 at the end, well, it's better to have 32 at the beginning. So mark out that whatever peak number you have. And if you have B there, add 1 for that. That's the only incorrect answer on there. Unless Sydney claims to have. Did anybody find anything else on version 1 besides
that was the question. That was the one. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that number 47 should be B. Version 2. Question 44 is the only wrong one, and that should be C. So if you had C for 44, give yourself that point. That's the only wrong thing with version 2. Version 3 had no errors. Okay, is that where 11 and 12 were switched?
Yeah.
So you saw the original one, and then the ones you have in your hand, 11 is 12 and 12 is 11?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. How the hell did that happen? Who knows? I probably did it the last minute to make them all fit on one page. One was longer than the other, so I'll just switch those. I don't know. But who knows? Oh, Scantron beauty, AP. So, okay, so then in that case, what should it be?
11 should be C and 12 should be B.
No, 11 should be E, 12 should be C.
11 is E.
11 is E, 12 is C. I hear 2 on that. If it's 11 and 12 on version 3,
Yeah.
11 is E and 12 is C.
Yeah.
That would be the right thing, switching them. All right? So please correct those. Give yourself credit for any of those 3. And once that's done, please hand everything to me. If you have your paper clips, that would be very helpful. If you don't sweat. I'm coming to collect.
I only got my stamps on that, so I got my wrong thing.
Okay, all right. Keep it and give it all to me at one time. Thank you. Sorry. We apologize before. Okay, thanks for not following directions and writing it on a separate sheet instead of on the page that I told you to do. Thanks for that, Simon. All right, but you were absent, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, I forget.
Yes.
Do what I told you to do, because I'm going to be looking in the same place. There's not like a rule for everybody and then one for Jay. No, you're writing plus 1.
You just said 20 over.
Let me repeat for those who need it said 3 times. There is a red mark there that has your original score. You mark that out and you give yourself credit next to it with the correct number based on the wrong Scantron. Sorry for my short temper, but you understand. It's like herding cats.
Yeah, I didn't read it carefully enough, and I didn't see that Word document.
Okay, and so your quiz grade is going to suffer because you didn't read it carefully enough and you didn't see the Word document. All right. Thank you.
That was the best time to do.
you telling me, Kristen? Version 2, what?
Wait. Okay, no, never mind. I marked it wrong on the scan, so I circled it right. I went on that.
And those are things, test taking skills. Okay. All right, thank God. Alrighty then. With no further ado, up comes. Up comes. What?
It's over document.
It's not that document. No, Jay, get up here. I'm sorry, Ishan, get up here. Come on.
Goose for the class.
Looking on the right side. Just look and, square peg, square hole. You can do it.
It explodes on me.
Okay.
Alright. Alright, so analyze the significant continuities and changes of interactions between humans and the environment in Mesoamerica societies from 600 to 1450. So my thesis is, while 600 to 1450 CE saw the rise of many civilizations in Mesoamerica, from the Mayans to the Aztecs, there was a major continuity that survived throughout civilizations, notably the irrigation networks, which was technology. And although a continuity was prevalent, distinct changes occurred. The changes in urbanization and migration, where in classical periods, civilization fell due to abandonment/migration, which changed in post-classical periods.
So this and go back.
Alright.
So your major changes are urbanization and migration.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is a map illustrating the different settlements in Mesoamerica. So we can see the Mayans, the Teotihuacan, the Olmecs. Of course, these are only pre-classical, classical, because the post-classical Toltecs, which migrated from northwest Mexico, aren't here, and of course the Aztecs. So the timeline. So in 600, and during the peak of Mayan.
Now on this, I want all of you to. Time. So these are your marker events, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, guys, this is. We will share this so that you can all have this. But why not? Right? This is your opportunity to actually bang out a CCOT right here.
So in 600, during the peak of Mayan and Teotihuacan, we can see that they had irrigation networks and, of course, lower population, as they were rural and they were in villages. And yeah, in 750, 800, suddenly these classical civilizations fell due to people migrating out and abandoning for although the reasons are unclear, they just abandoned it, similarly to like the Indus River Valley civilization, where that also fell due to people just leaving the cities. So in the post-classical, in 950, there's population growth, which was a change from the classical civilization. So for example, Tula, one of the Toltec cities, had around 60,000 people. And then circa 1200 in the Aztecs, their capital, Tenochtitlan, had like 300,000 people. So this shows that their population increased, and possibly due to the chinampas, which are these floating gardens, which could boost urbanization, because that is when it boosted agriculture. So when there was more food supplies, then of course population would grow. And also they carried on the irrigation networks, which I didn't put there, but yeah, so they carried on the irrigation networks, which were established in Mayan and Teotihuacan times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and do your conclusion.
So from civilization to civilization, irrigation networks continued while changes in urbanization and migration occurred. So this can be connected to the Neolithic Revolution, where agriculture also boosted urbanization, because when there's more food, then civilization can grow and population can grow as the basic necessity has been completed. And I already connected to the Indus. So a cause and effect of that would be that when the Aztecs were against the conquistadors, because they had worse technology, the conquistadors destroyed them, kind of, and so culture was lost forever through exploitation and genocide. And this really highlights the power of European imperialism, as now Europe dominated both the Americas and the Eurasian continent.
Good. All right. Thank you. Now, please go back to your prior slide. Okay. Teotihuacan. What civilization is that?
That is a Mesoamerica. It's the classical. That's the people of the Teotihuacan.
Go to your map.
Yeah. They're like the highlands of Mexico.
All right. So, and this is early.
Yeah, this
pre-classical.
is pre-classical, classical, because
Alright.
the Olmecs were pre-classical.
So okay. So break it down to what's pre-classical and classical.
All right. So
what are our pre-classical cities? How
so
many are there, and what are they? Just name them.
So we have in the Americas.
In your region.
Okay,
Like-
so just the Olmecs, because the Chavins were in the Andes.
Okay. So Olmecs are pre-classical.
Right.
Okay. And so does that mean that Teotihuacan
And Mayan, they're classical.
Maya are classical?
And then post-classical is the Toltecs and Aztecs, which aren't in the map.
Okay. Where's Teotihuacan today?
It's like Mexico. It's
Is that
like,
Mexico City?
yeah, well, because they got taken over by, I mean, when they left, the Toltecs rose, which were in, like, which unified Mexico, kind of like the Teotihuacan did. And then the Aztecs took over, and that was kind of the Mexican area.
Pre-classical Olmec, classical Maya Teotihuacan,
Yeah,
post-classical.
Aztecs and Toltecs.
Okay, so please scroll to your next slide.
Oh.
Oh, dude, next slide. Scroll down to your next slide.
Oh, scroll down.
Oh, that's not your next slide.
So here.
Calm down. Pre-classical is Olmec.
Yeah,
Okay.
but that's not 600.
Okay, so our classical period then, 600.
Yeah.
Maya and Teotihuacan. Both of their cities are abandoned by 800.
Right.
Okay, so notice you don't really have to say 750 and 800.
All right.
Both have de-urbanized by 800.
Mm-hmm.
That's a major change over time. Population starts growing in Toltec cities, and this is post-classical?
Yep. And in the Aztec cities.
Okay, so between, say, the mid-10th century
Right.
and 1200,
Mhm.
we've got new populations, Aztec and Toltec. Point to the map and show us where Aztec and Toltec are.
So,
Just walk over there and point to it.
alright.
Use your hands and your body.
Okay, so the Toltecs came from up there, from like northwestern Mexico, and when they took over the abandoned area of Teotihuacan, and like this kind of whole area, and then after the Toltecs, the Aztecs destroyed them, and the Aztecs took over the whole Mexican continent and like unified it.
Ah, okay. So I want you to change your PowerPoint to reflect that.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because Toltec rose and then was swallowed by Aztec.
Yeah,
So Toltec falls to them.
to the Aztecs.
All right, this is a major change.
Yeah.
All right, so the only civilization standing when the Europeans arrive is.
The Aztecs in the whole Mexican area.
So, okay, so what's left by the Spanish arrival?
In Mesoamerica is the Aztecs, and like in Andes.
In Mesoamerica, that's your region, is the Aztec. Okay. Thank you. All right, well done.
Thanks.
Who's next? Now stop. Okay, so first time we're doing things, how can this most benefit you? What do you need right now in order to benefit from this?
You be taking
Make a
notes?
sentence.
You need to like have your notebook out. You be taking notes.
Okay, now did you have enough time to take notes?
No.
Because notice that we just did clarifying, the two of us did. And we actually said, okay, so pre-classical was these, classical was these, and then post-classical was Aztecs by. So those are your three basic periods. So what do you need to do in order for this to work for you? Take notes during it, right? Again, these will be shared, but why do something twice? That's like opening mail, putting it down and saying I'll do it later, and then you come and you pick it up later, and guess what? You spent twice the amount of time on that piece of mail or that email. So Jay is up. Jay has a last name too. What's your last name, Jay? Go.
Wait up.
Okay. How do I make it like present?
Do the little presenting mode in the
lower left hand. You see the little TV screen?
Yeah.
Now we're going to have all sorts of fun with presenter mode. Okay. Go.
Okay, so societies in Mesoamerica analyzes significant continuities and changes of the development and interaction of cultures in Mesoamerica from 600 to 1450 CE. There were significant continuities and changes in relation to the development and interaction of various cultures in Mesoamerica between 600 and 1450 CE. The major change was that the Mayan religious beliefs in their god and culture gradually became militaristic and violent in their methods. For example, like one of their rituals was that they cut out a heart and one of the people had to eat it to like worship the gods. And major continuities were that Mesoamerican culture and religion was always central to Maya life, as well as how traditions from the Olmecs were carried on for centuries, even though the Olmecs were a long while before the Mayan civilization.
Stop. I thought the Aztecs were the ones who cut hearts out.
No, it was, well, the Aztecs were, but they were Mesoamerican.
But you got Mayan,
Oh,
extremely militaristic. Is that correct?
no, that's not correct. That's supposed to be Aztec.
So all of you hear that? Jay? Fact check. Okay, keep going.
Okay, so that's a map of Mesoamerica, and it shows the Mayans, the Olmecs, the Teotihuacan, and the other map is pretty much the same, but it's just in color and it has a key at the bottom.
Show the green.
What?
What's the green key? It helps. There's the Aztecs, guys.
Yeah, so that's the Aztecs. Basically, it's color coded. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Mayan beliefs were like tattooing their body. These are one of the continuities which continue throughout Mayan religion. It was the cultural practices like tattooing their body, human sacrifice to please their gods. That's wrong. Yeah, that was supposed to be Aztec.
Jesus. Click on it right now and correct it.
Where's the
It's
Olmec
in,
on the map? Like it says the Olmecs are orange, but I can't see what
It's between the green and the purple. It's very
If you
small.
look at there's a map of that, you can see all
Oh,
this.
I see.
Okay, can you edit that?
I don't
Just exit out and click Mayans and make it Aztecs.
Wait, but the Mayans did do human sacrifice. The Aztecs just did it more. Like the Aztecs did it in like scores. The Mayans did it, but not as much.
Okay, then make Mayans and Aztecs.
Well, they all did human sacrifice.
Just-
Who are the ones that became the most militaristic though?
Aztecs.
The Aztecs
They're like the
Aztecs
rulers.
are
That was the Aztec.
close class.
The Aztecs.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
there was
So now you can go back to your. Okay, upper right hand. See that little up arrow under help? The little up arrow. No, go down. Yeah, that.
yeah.
Click it. Okay, that helps.
Okay.
Take your presenter notes and pull this down because you're going to correct as you go. Go.
Okay, so there wasn't really any specific to one year, any marker events. They were all like spread out over time for culture. So from about 300 to 900 CE, the Maya built more than 80 large ceremonial centers in the lowlands, all with pyramids, palaces, and temples. Almost all Mayan cities included large pyramids with temples on top, complexes of administrative buildings, houses for the elite, a ritual ball court, and often a series of altars and memorial pillars called stelae, which were used to commemorate great actions of leaders and inscribed with the hieroglyphic script. Also, the Mayan priests were responsible for the construction of elaborate calendars, which wove two kinds of years: a solar year of 365 days, which is like the one we use now, and days based on the agriculturals, and a ritual year of 260 days. Teotihuacan had scores of temples, several palatial residences, busy markets, and hundreds of workshops for craftsmen. And during the Mayan peak in the 7th century, the Teotihuacan began to get prominent when the Mayan civilization was at its peak, and the Teotihuacan had its peak in the 7th century, and there's really no written records because when the city declined, all of it was like perished.
Okay, stop. No, go back. What do you? let's talk about presenter skills, right? How could this be more digestible for you guys?
Bullets, because it's often in paragraph form, so it's often hard to take notes.
Yeah.
If there's bullets, it's not like a brain diary.
Yeah. So new rule. How many of you know Bill Maher? Bill Maher, M-A-H-E-R.
Oh,
Good Lord.
that's easy.
You must. I think I've even shared him on our Facebook group. New rule. Bullet points. This is a presentation skill. You put a complete paragraph or sentence up there, what do people do? They stop listening to you and they just start like reading what you put up there. These are your bullets. You talk through them. You don't read the sentences, okay? So I want you to, before you share this with us, I want you to just make it bullet points so that it's not so cluttered. Go.
So you can compare it to the Xiongdi from the Shang Dynasty because similar to the Huitzilopochtli, where there was a god in the Mayan who was believed to rule from the sky, similar to Xiongdi from the Shang Dynasty. And also the Maya believes in nature gods can be connected to Egyptians and their beliefs in gods like the sun god and other various nature gods. It's different from, the Aztec belief is different from the Chinese beliefs in terms of believing that they have to sacrifice living humans to please a god, whereas Chinese beliefs lay in the mandate of heaven, where the god was like either pleased with you or not, and then you had to like change, as in the ruler would change if the god wasn't happy with you. Like that was their belief. And another major comparison can be to how, similar to the Mayans preserving and continuing Olmec culture and practices, the Akkadians preserved and continued the Sumerian culture.
Okay. All right, stop. I want all of you to notice, I don't know why, it's weird, but you know what, your generation does this. Year after year I see this. A parentheses is around a new word, and this isn't you, seriously, like probably 50% of the people in this room do this. I don't know who taught you that that's okay, it's not. That's illiterate, You look illiterate when you do that, so stop. Space after God, always a space before the opening parentheses. Okay, so please put a space there. And every other time you have parentheses. Okay. All right. We'll keep going. Next. Orion, were you able to recover? Oh, I'm sorry. Max, were you able to recover? Orion, you coming along?
Yeah.
Good. I have faith in you. You can do it. Those of you who have presentations to give today, notice if you've got big, long sentences on there, please use this time to cut it out and make it bullety. For example, Jay, what could your bullet point? Here, I can give it to you. Bullet. Temples, palaces, basketball courts, and what?
That wasn't. Okay, it was.
There's like 4 nouns for their sort of architecture and urban life and
It was
stuff.
a ritual ball.
I know, but they were ritual ball courts, but it actually was a form of basketball.
Haven't you ever watched Ultimate?
Okay.
You know the movie Ultimate?
It was a form of basketball. Why are you saying no, it wasn't? I'm pretty sure it was, wasn't it? Didn't they have a hoop and a ball?
Yeah.
Oh, they had
Yeah.
a very strange game.
Yeah.
El Dorado.
It was a hoop. Like they had like on the wall and then
Yeah.
you just throw it.
They throw the ball.
Yeah.
And then the other team would be like
Yeah,
sacrificed
so it's a shame that APWorld can't go 2 years, that 9th grade isn't pre-AP world, because we could like stop and we could look at this, because what we're looking at is civilizations that just died, and they are so interesting, especially the Incas, and I can't wait to get to the Incas. These are interesting in a different way. Hey, I got a good idea. God's heart hungry. Rip out his human beating heart. They would kick them down the pyramids, and they would roll down, and at the bottom, dogs waited to just lick that hot, warm blood as if they had just found a dead chicken. They're eating human sacrificial victims. The pyramids were covered with human blood, layer after layer, year after year.
That's my type of people.
It's the coolest thing in the world. Okay, go. That's the Aztecs.
Okay.
Yeah, thank God they were replaced by those civilized Europeans. Okay, go ahead.
Analyze the significant continuities and changes of theme 3 in Mesoamerica from 600 to 1450.
Stop! Sorry. What's wrong with this?
Theme 3. Theme 3.
I don't change that.
Okay, and you know what? Put your bloody theme there, knucklehead. You're telling your people what your theme is. And second, again, presentation skills. Haven't you been taught this? What's wrong with this?
It's so small.
It's so small. Dude, look, Max, look. I'm teaching you how to give a presentation. Basics. I won't go into the fact that using a theme from PowerPoint is frowned upon. We won't go there. But all of this dead space, Max, look at me, I'm talking to you. All of this dead space around it, notice these people are really far away, and this is like little bitty. So you can make it bigger, and everybody will love you. They'll throw flowers. Too big. Let me show you a new trick. Watch, get out of the way. Cross my fingers that I'm right. Oh, hell and damnation, I'm wrong. Okay, well, that's because it's Microsoft. Okay. Huh?
Just make it 40.
Let's make it 24.
40.
36.
It's not 40.
No, you can just type in 40.
There you go.
can't you?
Thank you.
And then,
Let's apologize.
okay.
Oh.
Fun with learning how to do a basic presentation. Go!
Okay. Mesoamerica began their classical age in 600 CE. With it came the rise of several civilizations led by a single ruler. However, they were lacking a strong governing body and a military that was aggressive. The single ruler system would continue into the post-classical era, but with the rise of the new civilizations would come a change in governing body as governments became more militaristic and authoritative. The first image on the left is the classical era, and then the one after is of the post-classical. So you can see, like, it doesn't show the Toltec in the post-classical because, well, the Aztecs conquered after them, and then they were the last civilization to face the Spanish. And then on the left, it's hard to see, but central
You
Mexico.
can walk over there and point.
Okay, in central Mexico, so like central Mexico would be the Maya civilization, or like Mayan, but that's the language apparently. And so the Mayan civilization would last longer than the Teotihuacan. Yeah, that civilization. Yeah. Do you want to see it longer? Okay.
No, what's it? No, go. Oh,
Okay. So, in the classical era.
Stop. Okay. Your first time through, no penalty, no foul. Your second time through, if you are not showing audience awareness by the size of your font, okay? What's the rule of thumb there? What was your font on the last slide? What was your font size? 36? Okay, I think it's, and what's your font size on this one? Look at
It's
it.
18.
It's 18?
I think. Yeah.
Okay. So again, notice, you can click this, you can move this thing up, you can spread that higher to give yourself more room in this box, and you can do all sorts of stuff to make life much easier for all of us.
I need the space.
Okay, that's, yeah, good enough for government work. Go.
Okay, so the Maya civilization, that was the first main one to appear, was led by one ruler who was said to be able to communicate with the gods. And though this is like considered as a religious belief, it did allow him to have a lot of control in both aspects. In the Maya civilization, elites would also play a small role in politics, just controlling small like towns and not main decisions though. And by the 8th century, the 8th century, they were said to have fallen due to civil war. Or 9th century, they were, one possible way of their fall was through civil war. The Teotihuacan.
Con.
They rose during the peak of the Mayan civilization, and unlike the Mayans, they did not have a single ruler. But one possible conclusion that people have said was because the elite families ruled together, which was something unheard of at the time. Following the fall of the Mayas, there was a period of constant fighting between regional states, and only because of the Toltecs were they able to reunify. The Toltecs had a militaristic nation, and they were very aggressive. This is likely because they rose from the dust of, or the ashes of the falling regional states, and then they reunified central Mexico. They conquered from their capital, Tula, down to Central America. It was ruled by 2 rulers, but this was said to have eventually weakened their power. And after the Toltecs declined, came the rise of the Aztecs. The Aztecs were the most militaristic, with a very strong military and aggressive expansion. They were able to conquer many places in Central America down to Central Mexico down to Central America. After conquering these places, they would impose a tribute system upon the conquered, and in exchange for food, the people would receive irrigation systems and other things. Because of the strong military and the strong governing body, the Aztecs were able to rise to, as you can see, a vast empire. And also because the semi-divine ruler was elected by the wealthy family, or the elite families, he was said to have be a descendant of the gods. And also there was a kind of feudal system where officials who gained titles from military achievements would be given people to rule, and they would earn income from that.
So the Aztecs had a sort of a feudal system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the same thesis as before. I didn't have enough time, but essentially, Mesoamerica continued the system of a single ruler throughout, even though there were periods where certain civilizations didn't. There was always one civilization at the time that was having a single ruler. The single ruler system tended to help them because, as known, a lot of the civilizations that didn't have the single ruler would fall. Furthermore, the single ruler system allowed for quick decisions, and this was mainly evident in the Aztecs, who single rulers were very aggressive. The strong governing body and military aggressiveness would allow later civilizations to conquer more land and gain more wealth. The tribute system is similar to China, in which China imposed the tribute system on Vietnam and Korea. In exchange for money or food, they would give back an education system to the Vietnam.
Stop.
Vietnamese.
Stop. Don't use tribute system in China, because China didn't conquer its.
Those places they just couldn't
China, yeah,
conquer.
they just, as we saw with John Ha,
Yeah.
people came and kowtowed to the emperor, and we were friends. We didn't conquer you and exploit you. This sounds more like an empire, in a sense.
Yeah. But then another connection is through a semi-divine ruler in Mesopotamia, in ancient Mesopotamia. The ruler, or the king, was said to have godlike powers, basically. And in the Aztec Empire, this was also evident.
All right. Perhaps Egypt would be even more. Why did you choose Mesopotamia instead of Egypt?
It was the first thing that came to my mind.
Okay, well that's great. So instead, look for the best thing that comes to your mind before you come up and give us ideas that Okay, so delete tribute system, because although I understand the fact that it's the same word, so therefore it sounds like the same thing, it's really a very different thing there. All right, so, all right, have a seat, thank you. Oh, Ryan, were you able to recover?
I hope so. I got good with it.
Do you know that when the Korean War broke out, America had 30 minutes to figure out how to react? They made their plan in 30 minutes. 38th parallel and everything. 30 minutes. They had a stack of National Geographics in the Pentagon. That was it.
Am I connecting to?
You're not doing anything. You're just plugging it in.
Yeah. Look at your feet.
Oh.
Now, so am I to understand that did the Olmecs do human sacrifice?
Yeah.
So
Do we know?
We don't really.
We don't know much about them. There's not any written record.
okay, all right. So, but our earliest records of after the Olmecs, we've got Teotihuacan and the Mayas,
Yes.
Yeah.
and Teotihuacan and the Mayas did do human sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So human sacrifice was a continuous thing
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
beginning to end in the Mesoamerican
Yes.
civilization. This is interesting. All right.
But, yeah.
But at its worst, under the Mayas.
No, the worst under the Aztecs.
I'm sorry, the Aztecs. That's
Yeah,
what
the
I'm.
Aztecs
That's what
took
I'm doing. What you do because you made me do it. Okay.
Yeah, the Aztecs took human sacrifice for on steroids.
They killed like thousands of people.
Thousands in like one second.
I know. This is okay.
but
Did I
it's
do
still
something
scary.
wrong? Okay, whatever. This is weird. Okay. So, for the period from 600 to 1450, the main reliance for their economic system in Mesoamerica was
Stop. What's wrong with his? What's wrong with his? Okay.
There is. You just gotta look for it.
You didn't use the words though. You have to use
Yeah, you didn't. Right. And notice. So okay. So you're learning. This would not pass. You would not get a point for this.
Cool. Should I change it now?
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. So, they mainly relied on agriculture, but when the Teotihuacans, they switched and started using trade, and so it became like a trade hub, and it started becoming a viable means of economic sustainability. And then the conquered people were used as a labor system where, like, the elites were used as sacrifices. So.
Go back. We do have to. Let's do a quick thesis clinic on this. I want you to tell me how many ways this needs to be fixed. Just get out of the way. Without tripping on things and breaking everything. All right. Remind me to kill you later. All right. Jesus God in heaven. Okay. Come on, help me out. This is supposed to be a thesis sentence that will get a point in a CCOT. Hell and damn. In a CCOT essay. All right, so what do we need to add here? What's missing? What's before change? What else is certainly, like, you have to really like pull out your magnifying glass to find it? The theme. Okay, so I'll just do the freaking surgery here. Comma.
my continuity.
You see how much clearer that is? You were telling us period, place, and theme all right there in one phrase. And then you're talking about continuity and change, except
There's no change.
except there's no change.
Brush this and just look for things to talk about.
people as labor and the emergence of trade as a viable means of sustainability. Okay, I don't know what that means, but
So, Mesoamerican economies, they continued the use throughout all the civilizations of the conquered people, use as a labor system, and trade emerged as like a more prevalent system of more prevalent economic system, because agriculture at first was mainly used and there was no trade, but with the Teotihuacans they rose to be a trade.
okay.
So just yeah. So this map, I have two maps. This map shows the areas in which the Aztec and the Maya civilization were, which is shown by the purple and the green.
New rule: when you want to show people stuff on a map, walk over and present it using your body and your hands. It really helps people. It's amazing.
Aztec.
Maya.
And what this shows is?
This shows the areas that they had conquered, or the areas they were in control of during the times that they were like ended, when they ended. So during about, not ended, but during their rule, this was the general area that the Aztec controlled, and this was the area of the Maya civilization. Okay. Then I've got another map to show the sort of Teotihuacans and the Olmec as well, just so we know where those are. And this was sort of just classical. Okay. Now with the
Wait,
timeline.
scoot back for a second. Did anybody see that beautiful mnemonic? You know, your assy babes perverting. How about Tom? Just east to west. Or west to east. Okay, go.
So,
Ooh, he's getting all keynotey.
it's sideways, but I get more stuff in.
Good.
So,
I like it. Go.
so from before, so 100 CE saw the rise of the Teotihuacans, but they mainly became at their peak during around 700, so just before they collapsed, and they were strong users of trade. Trade was very popular in their capital. Then in 800 to 900, so around the same time, the Maya civilization and the centers were all abandoned. No one really knows why, but so they used agriculture, even though the land was kind of not the best for it, but they used methods such as like the hack and slash to sort of move around and keep farming. Then the Toltec was founded, and they continued as well as the Aztec to use the system with using the conquered people as labor, and so the elites of the conquered people were used as for religious sacrifices, and the normal like peasants and such were used as a labor force.
Let me ask a clarifying question. Is this slavery?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm asking all of you. I have not read this chapter because I was busy catching up on grading for. Is this is this a slave-based economy? All of you have read this. What are your answers?
You had, because you had commoners.
Hands.
Prisoners of war.
Hands. How is it different from slavery?
Well, no, you had both. You had the existence of slavery because when the Aztecs and them came and they conquered peoples, many of the conquered peoples, especially the nobles, would become slaves. But then you also had the commoners who lived like kind of like outside the cities, and they'd work the fields and stuff.
Were used for human sacrifice.
Yeah, and then with the Aztecs, you had the feudal system as well. You had serfs who worked the land,
Right.
mostly from conquered peoples.
Yes.
So I guess you did have slaves, but at the same time you had common people.
Okay. Who was used for human sacrifice? The elites or the commoners?
Yeah,
Commoners.
Okay.
It's mostly prisoners.
No
Yeah,
way.
so like the prisoners, the commoners that they conquered.
Who were the sacrificial victims?
So mainly the elites, but sort of when it came to the Aztecs, they wanted to sacrifice more people, so they kind of just used a lot of people. And so they also had like the serf system, which I'm going to get to in this next slide.
All right.
The Aztecs started using serfs similarly to medieval Europe because they had more sacrifices, and they started using like people that were in debt because they needed more workers and stuff. So, and to show the reliance of agriculture, the Mayans or the Maya people, they developed separate calendars for religion and for the agricultural cycles, which sort of just shows how strongly they relied on agriculture, as they were able to separate it from religion as well.
I would say even further. I mean, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? China had agricultural calendars, but they didn't have a separate religious calendar. So would you agree that this also shows just how radically religious these people were?
Yeah.
That they would have a second calendar just for religion. So.
People.
And then ironically, a religion based on human sacrifice.
Scared the people.
Okay. More? Anything else? Okay. All right, thank you. So that was economics. So what do we learn then economically? Agriculture based.
And then trade.
And being militaristic, a lot of conquest and basically conquest labor.
Yeah.
All right. And didn't the Aztecs, I remember, I want to show you a book. One of the best history books I've ever read is here somewhere. It's about the Spanish conquest of the Aztecs. That's where I got my dogs licking the blood at the bottom of the pyramid detail. Where is it? Because it's a great book. It's a classic of this period. Many historians can't write to save their lives. This guy could freaking save all of our lives with his writing. He's like the messiah of historical writing. I can't find it. But what I'll tell you is this. Oh, he mentioned this. It's an interesting point. Remember it for possible, AP exams. What other civilization, because of its sort of economic system, its economic system actually said, okay, we've got to like conquer more because that's the way our economy runs. Our economy makes us need to conquer more land. Rome. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. We need more land because, why do we need to conquer more land?
To get like more.
Because we can get slaves to work on our plantations, our latifundia, all that sort of stuff. Well, the Aztecs started needing to conquer more in order to feed their gods more sacrifices. That human sacrificial system was actually an incentive for them to continue conquering. Okay, so who's up?
Lad. Oh.
Who's up?
Oh, me. Me, myself, and I.
You're not up. You're
down.
Maybe so cringeworthy sound.
Hey, Sean, you're what? You're what, Sean? I'm getting tired of your nonsense. Wait, which one is it?
It's the HDMI.
Is it? No.
Oh, you're messing with me.
If anybody wants to just like come in and taste excellent historical writing, this guy John Manship White, Cortez and the Downfall of the Aztec Empire. This book kicks ass.
Come on.
Reading it.
Sorry, sir. All right. I thought I had this right. I ticked the box, Max. What?
So you need to have the once it goes in.
Sorry, sir. I thought I had
Just keep calling me sir, and everything will be okay.
That's fine. Oh shoot.
Okay, now do you see their arrangement?
Yeah.
Mirror displays.
Yeah, I see it.
Yippee-ki-yay, get along, little doggy.
Thank you. Don't need it.
What was that?
Okay. Go! Go, Socket, go!
Period 3, Mesoamerica. Theme 5, social structure.
Look at him, he's good! I hope. Go.
So, my thesis
Max.
is, in Mesoamerica, between 600 to 1450, there is significant change in social and economic constructions due to the militarization of Mesoamerica following the fall of the Mayans and the Teotihuacans, but a continuity was a fundamental and largely unchanged role which priests enjoyed in society as a result of the central place which religion played. Just give that a minute to sink in.
Now give us the short version.
Social and economic changed because they became much more militaristic, so the classes got changed, and priests were always priests. Like they're always like quite high up because they love religion so much.
Okay,
because
good.
they love their gods.
Good.
Okay, here's a graphic. So here we see the Olmecs, pre-classical. We see the Teotihuacans and the Mayans, who are classical. Aztecs were here, classical Toltecs were like around here. They came down like, yeah.
So the T's are all the northern ones. Toltecs and Teotihuacan. All the T's are up north?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Okay. Here's our timeline. In 7th century, Common Era, Teotihuacan reached its peak and also started building walls around their city, which shows they're kind of caring more and more about their protection.
Give us just the social. We've seen this a million times. Give us your theme. Where's your theme stuff?
In the next slide. I can't really say much about social.
The timeline is supposed to be the timeline of your thematic CCOT.
Oh.
Jesus freaking Christ, kill me.
I wanted to build on the timeline.
New rule! The timeline is your theme's timeline. We don't need to have the same bloody thing for all 5. Okay. So you say you got a second one? Go to your second timeline.
Well, it's not a timeline. It's like an explanation.
Almost there, boys.
It's an explanation.
Okay, and you're going to talk us through it.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
go back one slide, boy. And is there anything in here that we haven't seen 500 times? Teotihuacan, collapse, Maya.
the font.
What the hell's a Tula?
It's
That's the city.
It's the capital of Toltec.
Okay, we might want to talk about like Toltec. Okay, all right. Next.
So,
Okay, so do you hear me? This is a routine and we're going to fall into it and we're actually going to learn how to do it well. You too, like next time, and all of you. This timeline is your thematic thing. As I said, if nothing happens in 1 century, common sense, you don't have to put 9th century, I'll make something up. Spider-Man had diarrhea. You know? Go.
okay, so basically what we see during this time is that Mesoamerican society and its classes became much more militarized. So in the beginning, during the classical civilizations of the Mayans, which we have records of, we had a non-divine king. Then underneath him were the priests and the other elites, and the priests served as advisors.
Walk over there and point to your thing so we know where you are.
All
and
right.
don't read to us, just say it.
Alright, so here we have the priests and the elites, and then underneath the elites, of course, we have our commoners and our slaves, right? And in the middle, when the Toltecs came, who were then conquered by the Aztecs, they kind of changed it up a bit because they were a centralized state based on military power. We don't have much records on them, but we do know they had 2 kings in place. So this probably somehow affected the social structures. Anyway, so towards the end, with the Aztecs rules, at the top of our social hierarchy, we see a semi-divine king. Then we see officials elected through military valor because they're much more militaristic. So they would reward you based on how successful you were on your military conquest.
Who has the awesomest connection ever to another outside civilization? Besides me.
Me?
Is it where the emperor awarded the brave people for fighting and gave them land?
Yeah, the Joe
Yes, and they raised their ranks.
And
Anybody could raise to a high rank if they just farmed well or fought well.
It was the Chinese.
It was the Qin state of the Warring States period, their legalism that abolished aristocracy and said, you climb the ranks now, you're all equal now. So how do you get higher on the hierarchy? Through fighting. And you rise in the ranks. So these guys sound very, very Qin legalist. It's not aristocratic, it's military. Go.
Okay, so anyway, so we have our officials who are elected through military valor. Then, of course, we have our priests, continuity, who've stayed, and they still advise kings and officials. And now we see a new class. On top of the commoners, we have warriors, who are normal commoners who can be elected, and they're basically just soldiers. So those are our changes. We see much more militaristic society, and we see much more military included in their classes. And the continuity was that priests stayed kind of at the top of the food chain. They were still very important. They were literate because they took the records and they made all the calendars. And they were advisors to kings. They were quite powerful. For extended core, I had that Mexico, which is where this region was based, is a very staunchly Catholic country, and this region is still very religious. So I thought, maybe that's just the continuity that the people of Mexico, they were religious and they still are very, very religious, and religion plays a big part in their life and in their society. And also that the rise of the Aztecs was quite similar to the rise of Rome. It happened through conquest and military expansion. And because of this, the societies are both highly militaristic. Yeah.
Good. Good. All right, thank you. Okay, let's get Incas.
Wow, put your feet on my
Light. Catherine, you don't need daddy, do you? Like these boys over here? You can do this, can't you? Oh, you got a password. Okay. So just go ahead and do. Oh, hit present.
Yes,
Come out. Do you like the Incan civilization or the Aztec civilization better in terms of like which one would you rather live in?
Inca.
Aztec.
It's so cool. Like,
But
You
Machu
die.
Picchu!
Okay,
Machu
go.
Okay, so my thesis is with regard to interaction between humans and the environment in the period 600 to 1450, Andean civilizations experienced change as their mastery of agricultural techniques increased. A continuity was that because of their agricultural knowledge, Andean civilizations were consistently self-sufficient, non-trade-based societies. So you can see in this map that generally throughout this period, Andean civilizations resided on where the Andes ranges, which means they had really unique territory because they had all these different kinds of environments. They had the dry desert coast, they had the mountain ranges, and they also had access to some jungle area.
Well, so I mean, point it out, right? You got your tropical forest, and what's a pampa?
Pardon?
What's a pampa? The pampas. What's that?
I don't know.
Well, look at the key, and now you do.
Oh, grassland, but there's different peoples.
Okay.
Here, yeah. And the other map shows where the Incan Empire is. So here's the timeline. The Moche people, their society actually began in the year 100, but by the 600 to 700s, that's when they were thriving, and that's when they had this sophisticated irrigation system. And this allowed them to plant crops such as beans, maize, and sweet potatoes. They also had this knowledge that different crops benefited from different altitudes. So those aforementioned crops were planted on lower altitudes, and they planted cocoa in higher altitudes. These are the two most significant Andean civilizations, the Moche group and the Incan group. In the interim, they're the Tiwanaku and Wari people, but wood doesn't really go into them. By the year 1100, the Incan Empire is in progress, and they have an irrigation system, terraces, fertilizer, and dams. And with all this accumulated knowledge of being able to manipulate their environment, they're able to amass crop surplus. And through government regulation of crop production, they're able to actually remain generally self-sufficient, which means they don't have to rely on trading with other peoples to get for their food resources. So restating thesis, from 600 to 1450, Andean civilizations became better at manipulating their environment through various agricultural techniques. With the Incans, the ability to have a crop surplus allowed for self-sufficiency when it came to food, which consequently fostered a non-trade-based society. So some continuity. Generally, this amassment of knowledge benefited the society because you can see that the Incans, by early 16th century, they're still there and they're still thriving because they are, along with the Aztecs in Mesoamerica, one of the obstacles to Spanish conquerors. Some connections. I thought it was interesting to note that generally in the same time period, 600 to around 1200, medieval Europe has their own sort of version of self-sufficiency, but it's of course on a much smaller scale with manoralism, stuff like that. when it comes to irrigation systems, this was one of the earliest irrigation systems in the New World. So in contrast, in the Old World, we can remember Egypt and Mesopotamia for their irrigation systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Next. Who's up? Come on. Is that on Google? It's on Chrome.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Share it with me. Tell me something. Do the Incas remind you of any civilization more than any other civilization?
No. They just remind me of Tintin.
Really? No?
The Tintin one, remember when they go to Peru?
It reminds me of
Yeah, I know. That's what
the
it
Indian, I think.
It reminds you of that.
Yeah.
They remind you of themselves.
They had like through the tunnels, through the mountains.
Global connection.
That was Indian.
Okay, quiet. Here comes Fern with culture.
So there were some major continuities were featured in the development of culture within the Andean civilizations, specifically the continued lack of a written language and a self-sufficient agrarian culture. However, it changed as the Incas rose in the 12th century and as they peaked in the 15th with new recording systems and a spread of language and technology. The earliest Andean civilization was the Chaban, which declined in 100 BC. These are important because they domesticated llamas and alpacas, which which allowed the other civilizations to become agriculturally self-sufficient and gave them an advantage in terms of cultivation. The next civilization, the Moche, began in the 1st century CE and started to decline in the 8th. This featured a continuity of no written language, as the Chaban had, and this continued later into the Incas.
Did the Chaban have a written language?
No, they didn't.
Okay, so neither one of them did. Okay.
There's never a written language in the Indian regions. And the Incas, which rose in the 12th century CE, established new recording systems with technology called quipus, which were different formations of knots, which were used as to record administrative things, populations, and numbers for the government.
So they actually use knots.
Yes, they
And yeah, go ahead.
periodically, like they had a 10 number-based system, and so they would have spaces between the knots and different formations of them.
Know that term. Back up and go over there. Know that term and write this down. It's spelled differently in some places. This might show up on your AP exam. It's because like cuneiform, like pictograph, like alphabet, this is the New World, quote, writing system, Chopu. And it's typically spelled, I've seen it also spelled Q-U-I-P-U, yeah.
And this is the spread of the Incas at their peak with their capital in Cusco. As they spread their religion, which was the cult of Cusco, and focused on the sun god Inti.
Please speak up.
And it focused on the sun god Inti, and it also facilitated the spread of their language, Quechua. This is significant because Quechua is still spoken in many parts of South America today with the indigenous populations.
Oh. So you got people in South America speaking the Incan language still. Wow.
It's not just like
Okay, thank you.
While there was no written language, there was a glyph system that was established, which was really only known to the elites, and it would be embroidered on their clothing, or mostly for the emperor or the Inca. And this attributed to their sort of class-based society, and also to the priest and religious hierarchy, which was most powerful and most literate in these civilizations. As well, in terms of technology, astronomy was developed highly, with calendars, both religious and agricultural. So they had a solar calendar, which was in honor of the sun god and counted the days, and there's an agricultural calendar for when things would be planted, and both of these were created by the priests and showed another focus on religion. Architecture peaked in the 15th century with Machu Picchu, which was almost a residence for the Inca, who was...
When you say the Inca, what do you mean by that?
The Inca was the god king of the people.
Okay, so the Inca is a deity.
Yes, he was...
But he's also a king.
Similar to Egypt.
Okay.
He was considered the descendant, he was a deity considered the descendant of the sun god Inti. The Temple of the Sun, which was in Cusco, was the center of the cult of Cusco, and was the main worship place for the Incas. In terms of religion, there was a powerful priest. Priest class, and they had a divine king who was called the Inca. Oftentimes, there was a very ostentatious lifestyle associated with the elites and with the ruler of the civilization. With gold, and a new outfit was created every day for the Inca. As well, there are other gods. It was a polytheistic society, but most important was Inti, the sun god, who was worshipped at the Temple of the Sun in Cusco.
How do you spell Inti?
I-N-T-I.
Okay.
And in conclusion, the major changes were the development of new recording systems, such as the Kipu and the glyph system, and the expansion of technology with astronomy and architecture. The major continuities were a continued lack of a written language and a self-sufficient agrarian society that did not focus on trade. The Inca religion is quite similar to Egypt in terms of having a divine ruler, and as a connection, the Inca language Quechua is still spoken by indigenous populations today around South America.
Thank you, Fern. Don't start mentally packing. But you can have a seat. Thank you. So next up, we're going to have who's doing political for Incas. Okay, good. All right. So that was just religion. What are the differences between South American religion and Central American religion? Do we have any human sacrifice in South American religion?
Human sacrifice was less religious than it was to assert power. It didn't have as much influence as it did in Mayan and Aztec societies. Like, it wasn't as important.
Was it a state?
It was a state
Religious practice to sacrifice humans in the Incas? And I'm asking if wood addresses human sacrifice in the Incas at all. Does wood address human sacrifice? Okay, all right. Because again, I want to keep things to wood, right? Just so we're all on the same page. You get the impression that the Incas are a far more humanistic civilization compared to the Mesoamerica?
Yeah.
Is conquest and slavery part of, and I'm sort of getting ahead to whoever's doing the economic aspects. Who's doing economics of the Incas? Okay. All right. And Michelle, you're doing that next class. We will pick up, and we will just keep cycling through, and I will get better on enforcing the 5-minute limit. Or is it 4? All of you who have not presented and who are presenting next time, please remember what we established today. Bullet points that are concise, not sentences, not sentences, not sentences. And good thesis sentences, all right?
Yeah.
I'm going to put a folder on Google Drive that I want all of you to put clearly labeled civilization theme of your presentations and just upload them there, so we've got just a collective study source.